You're thinking about buying a condo? That's great news, but you're also using an FHA loan. Did you know that the FHA will also require that the condominium is actually FHA approved? And there's additional steps that have to take place before you can actually get an FHA loan on that condominium. Today, we're going to be talking about how to actually look that up, where to go, what to look at, and then what not to look at. Now, we're going to get after that right now. I'm Liz LeFore, a mortgage loan officer located here in San Diego, California. If this is the first time to my channel, definitely consider subscribing, because on this channel, all we're talking about is everything mortgage related and to get you ready for your next home loan so you can build wealth with real estate one home at a time. As you're thinking about financing that first condominium, you want to make sure that first off that you're working with a lender that's done condominium. Too many times right now, you'll find lenders that have done loans but haven't really done condo loans. As you're thinking about buying a condo, realize that getting a condo loan from any typical lender or any lender on the internet is not the same as getting a condo loan from somebody that's actually done condos in the past. The reason why I bring this up is that too many times we are redoing or restarting or we're kind of recovering really the loans that were started by another lender and they didn't actually do their homework. They didn't check the information way before the client was actually in escrow. And so you're going to end up buying a condominium. Realize that a condo needs to be FHA approved, whether it's already approved on the FHA website or it's something that you're going to be doing a single unit approval, which we used to call spot approval. So that process is a little bit more intense. There's a lot more things that come into it. Yes, it can be done. And just for your peace of mind, a single unit approval where you don't approve the entire condominium complex does not take 45, 60 days. So if you're working with a lender right now and they're telling you that, oh no, you can't do an FHA loan inside of that condo in that condo complex because it's going to take too long to be able to close escrow, definitely make sure that you reach out to another lender, reach out to us. We'd love to be able to help you. This is something that we do a lot and you can still get them done within and under 21 days. As you're going and realizing the differences of a condominium, realize that there's different steps that have to get taken. So you'll end up seeing that number one, you have to make sure that the owner occupancy is spot on, which just means that there's got to be enough people that own the units and that are living in those units. A lot of the times you'll end up finding that condominiums have more of the owners that are actually more the investors versus living in the complex. The next step that you want to make sure is that the investor concentration is accurate. So what does that actually mean? Investor concentration means that out of all of the units, one person doesn't own more than 10% of all of those units. And so as those 10%, depending on how many units there are, it could be, they could own more of them or they could own very little of them. So going based off of some basic numbers, if there's 100 units, 10% is just 10, which means that one person can't own more than 10 units out of the total 100 units that currently exist. And if it's over, then it doesn't qualify for FHA financing. That it just ends up being like a higher risk. You obviously do need to have current documents, budgets, financial, your insurance, as well as your balance sheet. So when you get this documentation, depending on what you're doing, whether you're going to be one, approving the entire complex, or two, just getting your single unit approval, or number three, by chance the condominium happens to be already approved, then it's going to be even that much easier. So what we're going to be doing today is that I'm actually going to be sharing my screen so that way you can see what you're going to be looking at. We're going to be sharing Zillow as well, so that way you can also see that the details on Zillow are honestly not always accurate. So you have to look at a little bit more of the fine tooth, kind of open up those little dots so that way you can see more of the information. Okay, so we're going to go and start from scratch, really just going from Google to be able to look up what condominiums are actually FHA approved. So here you can just go approved, FHA condos. You can do it in any sort of the information. It'll actually automatically pull it up. This is the one that you're going to be looking at right here. Look at the condominiums. So as you can see, we can technically fill out all of this information that's right here, but in reality, you just need a couple spots to be able to be filled out. So you want the state that is relevant. So we're going to be looking at, in this case, it's going to be California. The homes that we're going to be looking at right now are all going to be in San Diego. So we're just going to type that in. And then from here, we don't need the city, the condo name, or even the condo ID. None of that is actually relevant or needed at this very second. So, and then you can of course input the zip code. It'll make it a little bit easier. When we look at this section right here, it ends up showing the search type. A lot of the time we end up picking the one or picking the other. We want to make sure that we leave it on both. And then scrolling down here, you want to be able to have this information too. So too many times we look at just the approved or just the expired. You want to again leave it on all so that way you have everything. Okay, so we're going to do some real life experiences and being able to show you some of the properties and actually what they show on the actual website. So looking at Redfin, this is a condominium that one of my clients was interested in. Obviously it is still listed for sale, active, if you're still looking for a condominium, right? So this one, you have the address here is 3549 Castle Glen Drive. Now looking at here, we're gonna go use this zip code at 92123 here. Go back to the condominium website, you'll type that in, 92123. Again, we got the county of San Diego and then the state of California. Once you click send, it'll open up the information so that way you see all of the different condominiums that are currently approved. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. There's a little bit faster way that we're going to be able to do this as well. But one of the things that we're going to be looking at is being able to look all the way down. It shows a community, which is Serra Mesa, but you'll find that this is typically not the name of the HOA. But a lot of the time you'll notice that this is just the community that it's located in. It is not the association. As we continue scrolling down, I just kind of want to walk you guys through this because a lot of this information is truly just junk as you're going through trying to get information about payments and talking to a different agent than the person that's already helping you right now. So if you keep scrolling down, you end up looking to the property details, and that's where it gets to be the most important. So you scroll down even farther, and as you scroll down, you start getting to the more pertinent information about the actual association. So here is where we're going to be finding what we're looking for. We have the HOA here, and then we have the HOA name that shows that the HOA name is actually Sunburst. And so we're going to do it this way, but we're also going to be looking at the condominium website for FHA to be able to kind of go back and forth and see that whether it's on there. And we're also going to be checking the public records. So the reason why I check the public records is that too many times you will end up finding that a condo is actually not accurate with the information that is on the website, on Redfin, on Zillow, on HomeSnap. It's just not accurate. So for example, looking at this property here, it says Birch Tree Lane. On this one at 12160 Rancho Bernardo Road, we end up scrolling down and you'll end up seeing that the information for the condominium is actually completely not there. So here we are, it says the HOA name, and it actually shows the total dollar amount of $343. It shows you the HOA phone number, and then that's it. Gives you the HOA amount here for the $315. So this does not help us. This is the reason why I say that a lot of the information that you end up seeing on the for condos on Redfin, Zillow, and any other public website, you end up finding that it doesn't have accurate information. So what we're going to do is that we're also going to check out the public records, which is also how I end up looking at property profiles to then confirm on the plat map where this is and what the actual information about the HOA could possibly be. Okay, so here we are, we're going to be looking at the plat map. So again, this is all part of public records, what we're going to be looking at. So when we go here, this is the entire condominium complex. And so we look at the side section right over here, and it talks about the Sunburst condos. Again, this form is actually on a side angle, so you just kind of gotta move your head. Nonetheless, it's a Sunburst condominiums, Plum Tree condos, Village Glen. This is actually the HOA name that you're going to end up looking at when you look at this here. So remember that when we were looking on the website here on the Redfin, it just showed the Sunburst information. But when you actually look into the details of the plat map, you end up finding a couple other names. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go back to this condo website. We're going to go Control F and then see if we can find Sunburst. And if we see on the very top, there's actually nothing pops up with a Sunburst, which is the reason why this isn't coming up. And so what we can do is that we can even scroll down, and then you can see everything on the left hand side to maybe see that if there was something that they missed. And you can see right in here that in fact there is no Sunburst. So then we're going to go back to this plat map again, and it says Plum Tree and then Village Glen. So let's do the same thing, Control F, and we're going to go Plum, Plum. Again, there's nothing that's showing up, and then the other one was Glen is what was showing up, and it's just the actual information here as to this address. So when we start looking at this detail, we now notice that this condominium that's here may show on the website and on the details of the description that maybe it shows that it can be eligible for FHA financing. It just means that the agent didn't actually go look up the information to confirm that it's actually FHA approved. So when we go back to the condominium complexes, we have already verified that it's not FHA approved. So then we would have to do a reports check, which is part of what I was talking about earlier, which is doing the owner occupancy verification, investor concentration, and then also the FHA concentration. Those are topics for a different video that we'll discuss later, but it's really how to do a single unit approval. So while this condominium is not currently approved, there are other condominiums that were approved that we're going to take a look at as well. When we're on this page, we want to just recognize that while the information that we have here, documents recorded, then the manufactured housing, right? We got FHA concentration that's over here. Realize that this information is not typically updated. So even though it says that it's 4.43%, you will end up finding that it's typically off. You do definitely want to do your own research. Then we end up looking over here where the status is actually approved, or maybe it's rejected, as we're looking down in the bottom, that there's missing documents that it's showing right here, right? Or again, rejected for other specific comments. And then you can end up clicking on this one specifically and then finding out why they ended up getting rejected because of whatever comments it was. The last status date basically means that when was the last time that they actually did something on this complex. That's what this means here on the date. And then the expiration, this is actually the project was approved, and then when does it actually expire? So in this case, this one right here, that where we found the Glen, is in fact approved, and it expires here on November the 17th of 2025. And then we're just going to go to the main page to be able to again get some more of the details to see whether this one is not approved or not, and then just do the search. So we're going to be looking at Birch Tree Lane in Poway. This one says it is Country View HOA. Let's find out what the zip code is. 92064. So when we go 92064, go back to the condominiums, change that here, just update the zip code, and then click send here. It'll automatically pop up. Again, we're gonna do the same thing, Control F, country, right? And then it's automatically popping up the information. As we end up seeing here, the top one that we're looking at right now is in fact Country View right here. So this is in fact the one that we're looking for that is in fact approved. So when we open this up, it'll actually show you the entire information that when the project was in fact approved, which is in 2021, the project address of what it's located to. And so you can end up being able to see that this one is approved. This is a project ID that was relevant to this one. Going back a little bit further, so we're gonna go back in here and we're gonna look at the information on the sycamore tree. Keep going over further, and then you end up seeing that the units, there's 240 condo units within the 60 buildings, and then it does exist here. And then we're just going to keep going, scrolling to the right, showing that that it was in fact recorded here. And then this is the FHA concentration, like we talked about, shows that it is approved when it was done on the last paperwork, and then it actually shows you when the approval is going to expire. So the one thing that you want to remember is that when you're looking at the approval date, is that your loan does in fact need to be done and closed before the expiration of the condo approval. So as we're trying to figure out whether a condominium is or is not FHA approved, that is really the biggest piece of the process for a condominium when you're trying to get an FHA loan. Realize that all condominiums have to get FHA approved. Some other things to remember is that when you're doing a single unit approval, to be able to order your appraisal, the condominium does need to be FHA approved. So in the case of 12160 Rancho Bernardo, that home was in fact approved, so they could actually be able to order the appraisal immediately. But for the other homes that we were looking at, the first one, that one was not approved. So that means that that home needs to do a single unit approval process, and that once that process is completed, the HOA cert has come in, balance sheet, budget, then also your master insurance has come in, been signed off by the lender, and then that's when it actually goes to FHA for the approval. Right now, that process is taking right about 3 to 5 business days, depending on the time. And then also when you're watching this video, it could be longer, it could be shorter. And it also really depends on your lender and then their process as to what they're doing. So a little food for thought as you're trying to figure out what you're gonna do when it comes to this process. Typically, the actual FHA approval of that condominium is done by your lender. So this step, this detail is gonna be done by that person, or it can be done by the agent as well. But as you can see, it's actually not that hard to be able to verify. You really don't even need to do the public records part where I was doing the property search. That for me is just a little bit extra work to make sure that I'm doing everything accurately and that we got all the details fine-lined as well. Again, my name is Liz LeFore with MortgageLiz Home Lending. And if you do have questions about condominiums or about home loans, we are here to help you to build your wealth with real estate. Definitely feel free to reach out to us. We would love to be able to see if we can be your next lender for your next home loan. If you have more questions, definitely feel free to put them down in the comments. We will be watching those as well and then respond back, so that way you are more educated when you do end up purchasing that home. And until next time, have a great day, guys.